Hi and welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to take a look at the AC200. I am powering my Promaster using the AC200. I am a nurse living full-time on the road. I have solely wired my entire van AC DC using the AC200. So today I'm going to walk you through how I've got everything set up. But before we get started, I'm a nurse. I am not an electrician. If you have any questions about anything that I've done today, please consult with a professional. Call an electrician, get clarification on anything that you're not sure about that I go through today. Okay, so first off, let's talk about the AC setup. And this setup will work with any power bank that you have. It doesn't have to be Bluetti, it doesn't have to be Jackery. Any power bank should work for your need. So the AC on this has 6 ports. What I did is I just use one of these ports and I plug in a surge protector into here. The surge protector is mounted out of the way so I don't have all kinds of cords coming through the front of this. I want to be able to pull this in, pull this out, unplug one cord, connect it to shore power when I pull up to a campground, or if I'm somewhere mooch docking and there's electricity. So I've got one cord, I unplug it. It's the surge protector. All my AC plugs go to the surge protector. Each one of those outlets are wired with an extension cord. I'm going to show you how I made those outlets in this video. So let's do this. You've got your box where you need it inside your van. Your wire threads inside of the box, okay? You want about 6 to 8 inches sticking out. This is mounted to your surface, whatever, and then this, you can either just tack this up on already built construction, or this goes behind the wall. Now, it's easier if you start at your generator, then thread this up the wall and secure it all the way along until you get to your box. You cut off your extra cord, because you only need 6 to 8 inches. Cut off your extra cord and feed it through the box. Once you've got it fed through the box, now it's time to hook up your outlet, okay? You've got one cord. I ran one cord per outlet. You can run one after the other if you just want to run one cord, but you really have to be careful on how many watts that you're sending through that system, because you're going to constantly trip your system. If you've got one cord per outlet, you know exactly what's going into that outlet and how much it's pulling. All right, we don't need that tight. Okay, so now you've got your outlet wired with an extension cord. You've got your extension cord secured along the framing. Basically, we just made an extension cord, but that goes nicely behind your framing. It gives it a nice, clean, finished look. I'm going to show you mine, and then we're going to go outside and see how we've got this all tied in to the outside, to the solar generator. All right, you can see I've got an outlet underneath my cabinet, and then I also have an outlet above my countertop. So let's go outside and let's look at the outside setup. Okay, so there's my Bluetti solar generator. I've got one cord going into it. You see I've got 6 outlets. I've only got one cord going into it. That cord is right here. It's my surge protector. Every one of my outlets on the inside of my van come to this surge protector, okay? So I've got an outlet, an outlet, an outlet. That's my Wii Boost. And this is how I charge my Jackery. So you can see I've got my outlets wired to an extension cord that comes straight to the surge protector. The surge protector is plugged in to my Bluetti solar generator. I used a color-coded system. Each outlet has a different color cord. That way, if there's any issue with an outlet, I know exactly what color that outlet is. I can trace it back to the surge protector and find the problem. The other thing that I did is I've got a hot water heater. It's on demand. I did not want that hot water heater to be on all the time. I also didn't want to have to run back to my surge protector and unplug and plug that in every time I wanted to use the water heater. So I installed a switch that I can access from inside the van, from my bed actually. I wake up in the morning, turn that hot water heater on. 9 minutes to 15 minutes later, I've got hot water. I turn that switch back off, get in the shower. I've got 4 gallons on demand hot water. That saves a lot of energy on my Bluetti. One of the first things that I realized about this system is that when you use one of these banks to produce heat, it'll drain this system down very, very fast. If you're going to use one of these banks, the AC, the little heaters, the blow dryers, the induction cooktops, the Instapots, the air fryers, it uses a lot of wattage. So when you use that for this, install a switch so that you can turn that on and off anytime you want. It's not constantly draining your battery. So I wired all my outlets. They're all going to the surge protector. The one cord comes to here. I plug that in, unplug it anytime I need it, to shore power or to the power bank. It is perfect for what I'm using. Okay, so let's talk about DC power now. What you need is a way to hook up your 12-volt fuse panel that all of your components are coming into, your fan, your water pump, your LEDs. All those symptoms are coming to your fuse panel. Now, let's hook up your fuse panel to your Jackery, your Bluetti, or your power bank. I'm going to reference a video that I made. I'm going to show you how I did that. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get onto Amazon or somewhere, and you're going to have to order some of these XT90. You got a male in, you got a female in. Those click together, and that gives you power. You have to wire that to your fuse panel. Got your hot, got your ground, wire them to your fuse panel, and then it's a connect and go. You're good to go. So let's take a closer look. All right, so let's see how we connect this. You've got your XT90 connector. You've got your positive and your ground. You're going to put ring connectors on your XT90 cord, on the end of your cord here. The reason why I use the ring connectors is because I don't want vibration of driving to pull them off. So I put my ring connectors on there, and you can see this one's the positive. It goes on here, and that's the negative. That brings power to this fuse panel from your XT90 cord. And you just plug that in to your Bluetti. Then you take your cords from your fan or from your lights, from your water pump, and you run those. You've got your grounds at the top, and then you've got your hots on the bottom. Run each one of those individually, put a fuse on them, and you're good to go. So what you want to make sure that you do when you connect, you've got your fuse panel, when you hook up your cord, you want to make sure that you put a fuse in there, okay? Now, if you're not running a lot of big stuff and you've got these cooked up, that's totally up to you. I wanted a backup. Okay, so let's talk about these wires for a minute. This is an aviator plug, and that's what the 12-volt 25 amp uses on my Bluetti. The Jackery system doesn't have that. It's got a regular cigarette lighter adapter. That's why I had to use the connect-disconnect system on my fuse panel. If you have a Bluetti, you only have a Bluetti, it's got the aviator plug, the 25 amp. You can get the aviator plug. There's a link in the description to order those. you can connect this directly to your 12-volt fuse panel. You don't have to have the connect disconnect XT90 XT60 system. I have this system because I've got two different types of plugs. I've got the aviator plug and I've got the regular cigarette lighter adapter. I want to be able to use this as a backup in case this powers down, which has happened to me before. So I wanted to be able to interchange these two wires. Okay, so let's talk about shore power now. I have the van set up. I've got a shore power access on the outside of the van. Ran that through the van. It's got a splitter on it. The Bluetti goes to one of those outlets, and then all I have to do is unplug the one cord from the Bluetti to the shore power. All of my outlets now become shore power. My van is completely set up just on a 15 amp system. I have never had an issue, but here's what you can't do. You can't have a crock pot plugged in or a Instapot, a induction cooktop plugged in, and turn your hot water heater on. That's too much power going to that surge protector, going to that 15 amp service. If you think that's something that you're going to want to do, you need to go with a higher amp system. So I know that I never turn my hot water heater on while I'm cooking. That's too much. So you just have to learn what your system can manage, what your system can tolerate, and you adapt to that. Okay, so let's talk about alternative power sources. There's going to be times when you've got your complete build done and you want to add an LED light or a little USB fan or something. So what I've done is I've got these little, this one is actually so old, I used it for hiking. It's a little Anchor power bank. And I wanted to have an LED light in the van on the floor. So what I didn't want to do is have a wire running on the outside of the wall. So what I did was I just take one of these power banks and I keep it underneath the cabinet there and plug those LED lights into this power bank, and now I've got a nice light strip at the bottom of the van just using the power bank. These power banks last a long time. Now this one I use for my phone. I charge my phone a lot on this just because it's easier to kind of move around. But the other thing I like this for is my little USB fans. These things it'll run a fan the entire night. So don't hesitate to get one of these. They're not expensive anymore. They're really reasonable and they last a long time. These Anchors are actually a very, very good brand. I've been using them for probably 3 or 4 years and they hold charge a long time. Alright, so the next thing we're going to briefly touch on is the solar panels. I am not versed enough in the panels to give you a whole lot of information on what you should do. But what I'm going to do is tell you what I've got on top of the van. I've got two 100-watt panels that I picked up from Renergy when I ordered this. This takes more than 12 volts to charge it, so you have to run them in series. So what I did was I ordered a solar suitcase. I wanted to be able to move it around, just like now I'm parked in the shade. I wanted to be able to move those panels around to get sunlight. They're huge. I didn't even bring them with me. So when I was in Arizona, I went to a tent sale and I ordered two more 200-watt panels. So I've got two 100-watt panels, I've got two 200-watt panels on top the van. I wired them in series so that I could get the higher voltage in order to charge this. I can tell you, a lot of times in the summer, this drains faster because I've got so many fans going. But in the morning, I've probably down to 40%, 30%, depending on how hot it is, depending on how many fans I've got running, if I'm using my computer or not. And by 11 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock, in full sun, I'm all charged back up again. So the solar, and I will stay at 100% throughout the day. Probably about 7, 8 o'clock at night, I'll start dropping again, and by morning, it's dropped down again. So the two 100 watt panels, the two 200 watt panels, more than enough for what I use it for. I do not have an air conditioner in my van. I don't have a heater or air conditioner. I use the Mr. Buddy when I'm in the winter for right now. I am looking into a split air unit. This is not going to run that. I'm going to have to just use that when I'm on shore power most of the time. I might be able to run it for a little bit, cool it down, but by evening time, I'm going to have to convert back to my USB fans. So if you're looking for AC all the time, one of these units, again, is not going to be enough. Okay, so under here, I have an area that I hang my shirts up. I've got a cord in here that I put here when I was doing my build. I wanted to be able to plug my refrigerator in while I was driving. My Bluetti was in production, and so I wanted some outlets in the van. So I put an inverter, just a small inverter, in the front of the van. I cut the alligator clips off, and I put some ring outlets on, ring connectors on, and I directly wired it to my battery so that I would have 2 outlets while I was building my van out so that I could take trips out. Since I had the inverter and I already had it connected to my battery, I just plug this cord, instead of plugging it into my refrigerator, I just plug it into the Bluetti solar generator now, so that anytime I want to charge it up while I'm driving, I plug this cord in, and then on the other end of this, I can plug my Bluetti into it, and I can charge it while I'm driving. So since I already had that, I didn't change it. I didn't want to directly wire it, put an isolator switch in. I already had that, so I just kept it. It's working out perfect for me. Some people say, oh, you lose watts when you're trying to charge it. It charges fine. I've had no problems with it at all. So, especially if you're on a travel day and you're driving for hours, that thing will charge that Bluetti up in literally just a couple hours. So, okay, so that's how I charge my Bluetti while I'm driving. Alright, so I hope that this has been a help for someone that's thinking about using a solar bank to completely wire your van. If you were concerned that this was not going to be enough to power your van, or if you were confused about how to get your wiring set up, I hope this has been a help. I hope that it's answered all of your questions. Any questions that you may still have, leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to get back with you. I'm happy to answer any of those questions. This has been a great setup for me. So good luck on your build. We'll see you on the next video.